With PlanetSide 2 being a game that has been up and running for close to 8 years now, a question has crossed my mind and my Twitch chat on multiple occasions. Will we ever see a PlanetSide 3? What would it look like? And is there a need for it to exist right now? G'day there once again viewers, this is your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today guys, we're going to have a chat about whether a sequel to our favourite MMO FPS is even viable in this day and age. Okay, so before we get any further guys, I want to make one thing as clear as bloody possible to avoid misleading you guys. PlanetSide 3 at the time of making this video is not in development to my knowledge. Now yes, it is very possible that the developers are working hard on this kind of project behind the scenes and keeping it very hush-hush, but if you consider the size of the development team and the rate in which they've been pumping out content for PlanetSide 2 this year, I would very highly doubt it. But if you take a look back to the start of the year where Daybreak Games announced the establishment of the Rogue Planet Games office, the producer of the studio, Andy Seitz, made this very interesting quote, open quote, "The establishment of Rogue Planet Games provides a runway and opportunity for us to deliver on our vision for PlanetSide 3, but that will happen in due time," close quote. And well, Andy had the biggest balls in the world to mention the buzzword PlanetSide 3 because straight afterwards the speculating began. News sites that were desperate for clicks started attaching themselves to those buzzwords and created some of the most clickbaitiest articles I've ever seen in gaming journalism. But nonetheless, here we are today with an active development cycle in PlanetSide 2 with features being added that were once considered nothing short of impossible for a game like this. So, why would you spend time working on a PlanetSide 3 if you still had so much left to explore in this current game? Well, I think one of the primary drivers for getting a PlanetSide 3 in the works would be an engine update or an overhaul. A lot of the performance issues that players face in a game like this primarily comes from its love of your CPU, and how the CPU market kinda went the opposite direction from what PlanetSide was hoping it would back when it was developed. Now, based on my research, for those who don't know, PlanetSide is a game that heavily favours outright core clock count speeds, you know, the gigahertz rating that is associated with the speed of your CPU. And unfortunately, that peaked pretty quickly with the industry now leading towards higher end core counts per CPU. That is where the focus of the industry is right now for better workbench performance. Now yes, there's so much more optimization the developers can do, but there's no denying that a game of this scale is always going to struggle in maintaining higher end FPSs if your core engine struggles to get the resources that it needs from hardware developers. So yeah, performance is always going to be a bit of a thorn in the backside of PlanetSide that might demand a sequel. In addition to that, the way the game handles movement can feel sort of archaic by comparison to the new and shiny shooters that are on the market right now that feature things like sliding, vaulting, and well, you know, have you get stuck on terrain a whole lot less often. The theoretical new engine might very well allow for the addition of new fields of war like space combat and water combat as well. I'm not sure if that is a limiting factor for the current iteration of the Forge Light engine, but if it is, well then an engine rework might very well allow that to happen in the first place. But I digress. Performance, movement smoothness, and creative limits aside, there is one more reason I can come up with that would warrant the addition of a new entrance to the franchise in this day and age. And that one reason is to drive up the hype again. We see it every year with games like COD, for example. One title will have been out for a year or so with a collection of updates to help maintain the interest through its lifespan, but then the next big COD game comes out and will steal the spotlight with new weapons, progression, and game content to explore. In addition, everyone involved in the transition to the new game is also a brand new player all over again. They have to learn the tools, the weapons, the gear, the maps, everything all over again. Everyone is on a relatively level playing field, and thus there's that initial hype from the community to get into the game and aim to become one of the better players while everyone is still initially learning how to play. It's always going to bring more hype to a game series if you release a well thought out sequel that innovates from its previous version than it is to update a game that has already seen plenty of updates throughout the years. Yes, the more hardcore, dedicated player base are going to be more than happy with ongoing support to the current title because that's where their time and sometimes money is going to be invested. But from the perspective of a wider audience, it may look something like this. Oh, PlanetSide 2 got an update. I checked that game out years ago and I can't be bothered getting my teeth sunk into it all over again. Or, PlanetSide 3 is coming out and they have a bunch of new features coming too. Might be time to check out this new addition to the franchise again. We as humans always want to be up to date in our circles of peers to ensure we don't get left behind. The fear of missing out is something that really drives us in a lot of snap decisions. It's why you see lines out front of Apple stores every time a new iPhone comes out, or why you see people buy the new FIFA game every year. It's all about being about the new hotness that is out and about there, and being able to relate to it from a place of authority and experience when our friend brings it up in conversation. So if PlanetSide 2's escalation update was the start of a brand new game that addressed the issues that the current engine faces, I can only imagine the player count and the hype that might have been generated as a result. But in saying that, I don't think that's how it should have gone down, just more or less using it as a point of argument. No, I'm actually happy that it didn't go down that way. Despite how cool it would be to see a PlanetSide 3 right now, it would be a huge, unwarranted risk. Here's why, guys. Right now, Rogue Planet Games has a very important job of proving to their publisher, Daybreak Games, that this game and this franchise is worth investing in and maintaining. They need to prove that above all else, it is lucrative and is going to be able to make them money. Let's remember, guys, that PlanetSide 2 went through a rough couple of years before the escalation update came out, and Daybreak Games' last attempt to re-invite interest back into the PlanetSide franchise was PlanetSide Arena. That was their last major time investment before they went all in on PlanetSide 2, and that didn't bode well at all for them. In fact, it cost them a shit ton of money, I imagine. So this is PlanetSide 2's opportunity now to really show off to Daybreak Games that this is an endeavor worth investing in. And let's not beat around the bush here, guys. Engine development is expensive and timely and also not easy to do. It's an endeavor that would drive dev time away from the current title, thus slowing down the pace of us receiving new game content here for PlanetSide 2. Less game updates generates less interest, which in turn generates less potential revenue. So on its own there, it's a risk that could very well murder the franchise before a potential PlanetSide 3 even has a chance to show itself into the market. But Cammy, what if they didn't work on a new engine and just made a PlanetSide 3 on their current one? Okay, I do hear you, Mr. Fair Araxian. Allow me to give you a counterpoint. How many times have you given the COD games shit for barely innovating as a game every year they release? A fair amount of you, I imagine, have thrown that line out into the mix sometimes. You expect a new game in a series to have a decent amount of growth creatively between iterations to make a new investment a warranted one for you. So, if the developers were to release a PlanetSide 3 that was on the same engine, that features mainly the same fields of war and mechanics, you wouldn't feel the need to switch to the new game, wouldn't you? You just stick with the current game that you have all your gear on. PlanetSide is a game that can't afford to create a new game for the sake of making one in the hopes that the player base will just migrate across no matter what. It needs concrete reasons for said player base to migrate, and that again takes time and resources away from current active projects. And that hurts revenue, which in turn gives DBG less reasons to keep PlanetSide's lights on. So maybe one day we will see a PlanetSide 3, I do hope so, guys, but this is something I have been asked on livestream on multiple occasions, and I feel as though it was time to address it in a video once and for all. Twitch.tv/kamikaze78 if you aren't following there, by the way. And I've always had the same thing in reply to that question. Why? And this has always been my logic behind asking you guys why in return. The developers are at a point where they can still keep innovating within the confines of PlanetSide 2, all the while keeping the revenue streams flowing to keep the game actually up and running. The campaigns, Colossus tanks, outfit wars, Bastion fleet carriers, and all the other stuff that we've seen this year proves that. And with that, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer before this game even comes close to making a sequel appearance. But one video that I do want to do very shortly, guys, is have a discussion about what PlanetSide 3 would look like to us. If you aren't already checking it out, head over to the community section in the YouTube channel and you will find a question posed by myself asking you guys what your PlanetSide 3 would look like and what features you would like to see improved upon. Leave some comments down there, guys, and I'll take some inspiration from those for an up-and-coming video that we're going to talk about in the near future. But as per always, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to go ahead and hit the like button, and if you've got any feedback for this video, leave it in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about my thoughts on whether or not PlanetSide 3 will come anytime soon, and, you know, where we stand on that. If you guys are new to the channel and you consider yourself enjoying the video, then be sure to back in that subscribe button so you can keep up to date on all future uploads that we do here. And as always, guys, if you want to support the channel further and help me continue creating content like this, make sure you go ahead and check out the join button down below as well to help support the channel further. It goes a long way. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys, and have a good one.